Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 9 of SFS, which is the podcast where Vish and I share all the thoughts that keep us up at night or make us giggle during the day. I'm Asta and I'm logging in from Chandigarh, India.
And I'm Vishrutha, logging in from Houston, Texas. So let's get all caught up for friendship's sake. So, how are you, Asta? How has your week been?
It's been quite interesting. I very recently got back to my hobby of painting. It's
Hmm.
been a really long time since I picked up a brush. But I absolutely forgot, I think, how happy it made me to just have that, half an hour, 1 hour to myself to do my own thing with the canvas. And it just got me thinking as to why I don't prioritize doing this more, why I tend to push my hobbies to the back burner whenever, things get busy. So I thought that's something we could talk about. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I think, yeah, like painting for me too has always been something that's super calming. I've known it's calming, but don't do it enough. Um, but you know what? Like recently, tell me what you think about it, but I've been feeling like I shouldn't force myself to do it. Because there were like a couple of days where I was trying to like be like, okay, every day I will do 10 minutes of painting or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
then somehow that was kind of taking it away from me. It felt like I'm making that part of my routine, which in my head felt nice, but the feeling wasn't
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I understand where you're coming from because I feel like a hobby is supposed to be something that you do simply because you love doing it and you just intuitionally want to go and do it and not something you should have to, set a schedule for. But what I've realized, at least for me, is that at any period there is this one activity that I just naturally want to do. And that activity changes from time to time when, my schedules change. So in the middle, I used to love, I mean, I've always liked reading, but in the middle, I just got obsessed with it. And that's the only thing I wanted to do. When work was getting a little too hectic, and, especially last year when I was juggling between like startup work and wedding preparation and everything got really hectic, I think I started using reading as a coping mechanism, as a you know uh, form of escapism. And that's something I really, just intuitionally picked up my Kindle or even started reading on my phone or whatever. And I didn't paint as much. But now when I sort of have a more slower life, I'm like, oh, I've kept my easel open. I have
mm,
my, I have that space that I've created where I can just paint. So I feel like if you like to do multiple things, every now and then that the it activity for you will keep changing, and that's okay. And again, having said that, I also think it's a good thing to schedule in your hobbies,
mhm.
because sometimes it just, I mean, it's okay if you can't do it every day. Maybe you just do it once a week. That's also fine. But I feel like that just in all these like calls and calendar invites and, brainstorming sessions, etc., that we do for work, it's very easy to for our hobbies to get put on the
Yeah.
back seat because it's something that we're only doing for ourselves. We're not accountable to anyone else for it. So it's very easy to say, you know what, today I'll do this thing that this person needs me to do for them, and then tomorrow I'll get to doing this for myself. It just seems like a very natural reaction to have when you're having a busy schedule.
Really like the idea of having multiple things you like doing, right? Like,
Yeah,
um, I always joke about this. I enjoy writing poetry, right? At least, I mean, I
yeah,
call it
I know.
poetry. I don't know what it qualifies as, um, but the thing is, I feel like it's never been like I sit down to write poetry and I write something, right? It's always like I joke around saying, I need to feel pain. Something needs to come to me to be able to write, which is true because I feel like all the times I've written is when I've felt extreme emotions, right? It could be
Yeah,
happiness, excitement, sadness, pain, whatever it is.
yeah,
And but And I've always thought that, okay, maybe writing cannot be my hobby because it's not like I can sit down and think about, okay, I want to write about a tree today and be able to write something about it, right? So,
Yeah.
but I do like this idea of having a bunch of different things because it just, it, it's everything around it. Like for example, for me, I
Yeah.
know words are something that I'm drawn to. So even when I don't feel like writing, then sometimes I look for inspiration and read poetry or listen to
Yeah.
something. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think that all of that, in some sense, the other thing about hobbies is, yes, there is an outcome to it which you enjoy, but I think even when you're going to a museum looking at art, if you're an artist, or listening to a song or listening to a poem if you're a writer, it still feels like you are working on yourself, and that
Yeah.
itself
Absolutely.
in some sense
It's
is a
the
gratification.
Yeah, it's the process that you have to enjoy, not the outcome, which
Mhm.
is why you must have read this a lot of times that you don't have to be good at your hobby.
Mm,
I mean, you can be a shit painter and still love to paint.
yeah.
Like you don't have to enjoy a hobby a particular way to actually say that it's your hobby.
The fact that I mentioned about how I write when I feel extreme emotions, I I don't know. I guess it's my form of journaling. Um
Yeah,
because every time
yeah,
I write something and put it out there, or like even send it to people to read, um I feel like I've literally, like somehow made my feelings into something tangible,
tangible.
physical, that's outside of me, and I've sent it away, right?
Yeah,
And it just, sometimes it feels like, oh, I could make something, beautiful, and sometimes it's just
yeah,
like it feels like something I could touch and see and be like, this is my feeling.
yeah,
And when it's
absolutely.
inside you, it's just all over and complicated.
Absolutely. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like very often we have this idea of what a particular hobby is supposed to look like,
Mm-hmm.
of how often you're supposed to do the hobby, or um, just these preconceived notions around that activity. But that's the good, I feel like that's the beautiful thing about having a hobby. You can really make it your own. It just because you like to read doesn't mean you have to read only one. It's not that if you read intellectual books, your hobby of reading is better than somebody, say, who reads romance, or somebody who reads historical fiction, or somebody who reads nonfiction. It doesn't matter. A reader's a reader. And that's all that, you know, really makes a difference. And if
Yeah.
we just let go of those preconceived notions of what we think our hobbies should look like, I think we'll be able to open ourselves up to the nice, beautiful feeling of just immersing yourself in something without really caring
Yeah.
about what the output is.
And especially today, I feel like there are so many digital and physical communities where, any hobby of yours can be entertained.
Yeah,
For me personally, I've always felt like it's daunting, intimidating to find these new groups, go there, make it a routine.
yeah,
But it's out there. There are so many avenues, and I'm so glad we're having this guest
yeah.
over
I was
today
just,
who's going to join us
yeah,
in a bit, who will talk more about it, and then we could chat more about all these
yeah,
different hobby
yeah,
communities that are out there. But we cannot deny the fact that the hobbies are more today and the avenues are
oh
also more
yeah,
today. So
$100,
I don't know if it's
100%.
the right thing to say if it's easier to find someone with the same hobby, but you definitely have more ways to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
that um, hobbies have become sort of a platform. I think they
Hmm.
always were, but now more so than ever, given that we live in so much of a connected yet disconnected
Yeah.
world, hobbies can really be that platform or that bridge
Mhm.
upon which you build newer relationships, and you build relationships um, that are not based on work, or that are not, you just build sort of like a safe space where the only thing you talk about is your hobby. Absolutely. I also, my mom used to tell me this ever since I was a kid. She was trying to push me to, build new hobbies. The good woman has put me in everything from Bharatnatyam to guitar to swimming to skating, hoping something will stick with me.
Yeah.
Um, and her reason was that you need to become comfortable spending time with yourself. You need
Mm.
to know how to occupy your time in a way that you don't necessarily need someone else. And later on in life, that is really going to be important. Now, as a 10, 12, 13-year old, I didn't understand what she was talking about. But today, I absolutely get where she was coming from. I think that it's so important to be able to know how to occupy your time by yourself and to give yourself that dopamine hit that you get from, immersing yourself in an activity without needing someone else to do
Mhm.
it with you. Because as you get older, of course, everyone gets busier, the number of friends reduces, the avenues to engage with those friends reduces, and you just need some amount of me time. You need that solitude. And I think having a hobby is a great way to let your mind not wander into unimportant things and to
Yeah.
productively keep yourself engaged.
I think the whole being able to, occupy your time is definitely one aspect that really makes sense. The other is, of course, I feel like self-expression, right?
Yeah,
And immediate gratification. Because I mean, most of our jobs, unless you're in a very creative industry, does not let you to self-express, right? You're more often
no,
than not, even if it's your own brand, you're working with a brand. um
yeah,
so for you to be able to go back to your
yeah,
basic human instincts, create
yeah,
something that can be made like in a day, or it can take months, but I still think the kind of joy that you get out of creating something
yeah,
is beautiful. And I mean, there's always conversation about like what kind of hobby you have and how it can change into a profession and things like that. But I actually recently was reading something about how generally they talk about, if you're good at something, then like how can you closely relate a profession to that? But
yeah,
there's more to it, right? They were talking about how if you're interested in photography, you have a lot of patience, because more often than not, you're either people watching, nature watching, bird watching, but waiting
yeah,
for that moment, right? And you have attention to detail because you have to capture that, and you're able to view, like they were actually talking about even wedding photographers, and they were saying how, like, you need to wait for that moment. You have to be in their shoes, understand what would be an emotional
yeah,
moment for the bride's aunt, and then capture it,
yeah,
right? Somebody you don't know. And similarly, if you're into cooking, then you're a multitasker. You
yeah,
must be able to plan multiple things and do multiple things at the same
yeah,
time. And if you're into sport, then you will have a good team spirit, or in general just like good discipline. So
yeah,
there are aspects that some of these are built over time because that is your hobby, and some of these you
absolutely.
already have, and that's precisely why it's your hobby. So I
Yeah,
think instead of looking at it like, oh, if you draw well, you should become a doctor, I think that there
yeah.
needs to
In
be
fact,
more mindfulness in terms of how we're using this our strengths, and then like really understand our strengths from using our hobbies and then use it elsewhere as well.
absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
you mentioned something about you just said, right? If you're good at baking or cooking, then that means you are a multitasker. Think about the similarities between being a cook or a baker and being a marketer. In both
Mhm.
cases, you need to know who your audience is. You need to know what they like, what allergies they have, what they don't like. You need to give it to them at the right time when they're hungry.
Mhm.
And then you need to sort of get the feedback and rework your recipe. There are
Yeah.
so many parallels that you can draw, and it could be either way. If you're a good marketer, you can attempt hobbies that utilize similar skills and sort of
Yeah.
build on them. But I think that's a beautiful point that you made, and it's very, very relevant. And uh, beyond that, I think hobbies, I think Vish, we should talk about the paint party story from 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think paint parties have been my only source of making friends. When like we first moved to Chicago and somehow everyone thought we already knew each other, but we just met and we're like, okay,
Yeah.
we have to be friends with each other. There's no other go. We don't know anyone else. And and I remember like us, like a bunch of us meeting at a pizza place. That was the first time we met anyone from
Yeah.
cohort.
Yeah.
And um and people were talking about hosting, going to different parties, seniors inviting people, and then by the end of it both of us were like, we didn't get invited to anything, we need to make
Yeah.
friends, what do we do? And I mean, the only thing we could have potentially done is hosted. But I remember we were also kind of scared, right? Like,
We
you're
were
inviting strangers to
petrified.
your house and you don't know what
Yeah.
they like. You don't know if it's first of all safe. It's just, yeah, I
It
mean,
was, yeah, because it was just such a we had to do something, and we had to do something that would, we couldn't just get everyone into one room and be like, okay, now let's talk and be friends. So
yeah.
we had to do an activity that would help us bond with people and just, become a conversation starter in itself, in a way that, it wasn't on us to lead the conversation.
Yeah.
And
Why?
that's
And
when we,
why would anyone turn up if you don't have an
yeah,
activity? Unless you have free
exactly.
drinks, but well,
Exactly. And we didn't have the money for free drinks.
yeah.
But I remember we were some 8 or 9 of us. And I remember we threw like a paint party where we're like, everyone come, we'll paint and sip and all. And I didn't have seating. It happened at my house, I remember. I didn't have seating. So we
Yeah.
actually got
Air
like blow up
mattresses.
mattresses,
Yeah.
air mattresses. And we put those up just so that everyone could, sit and funnily that gave us the friends that we were looking for.
Yeah.
The people that were at that paint party those years
Are
ago
still in
are
our
still our
lives.
friends.
That's nice, right? Like you're doing something for yourself and you're finding a community.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that I think is a great place to invite our guest in. Um, so we have a special guest for this episode, another long distance friend of mine joining in virtually. So welcome, Saathwik. So Saathwik is a friend of mine from undergrad who is also a serial entrepreneur who's had a plethora of experiences, starting a bunch of new things, very, very exciting stuff. Um, to mention a few, there's this online community called Habit that he started during COVID. And then he's experimented a lot in the kitchen, starting a cloud kitchen called Homely Fit, and then now working on something very exciting called the Indian Desert Lab. And my most favorite one is the Communite community that he has started in Hyderabad. I would love for him to talk about it more. But welcome, Satvik. Thank you so much for joining in and giving us your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vish. I'm audible. I'm all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Those were like, it's really nice coming from a college friend telling about what we have done post college. Yes. Thank you so much. And you guys are doing a great job. I have been one of the really good listeners from the first episode. And I love how you guys are talking about certain topics which are very, very essential but very less spoken out. So thanks for doing that too.
Thank you for the words. Very encouraging. Okay, so Satvik, this we've been talking about why hobbies are important, the kind of roles they play, what they add to your person, etc. And today hobbies look very different than they did look, say, 10 years ago, right? There's so much more. There are so many online hobbies like, video games and stuff. There's uh, also the fact that there's social media available to expose you to hobbies that you didn't even know existed or even teach you or get better or whatever has really changed the landscape of how you can develop, find, and use a new hobby. So you've done a lot of work in that space, like Wish mentioned. So do you want to throw some light for us on how sort of technology plays a role in building communities, building hobbies?
So, first of all, thank you for asking that question because I feel that the way people look at hobbies changed over a period of time. Because uh, let's say you go back 10, 15 years when we were children, the reason why hobbies were introduced to us is to maintain our sanity and also get some kind of addiction because there was nothing for parents to showcase or get their children to attach to. Right now, if you see, you go to any restaurant if you want, just observe this. If they want their kids to eat the meal, they're just giving them a YouTube channel to watch, and because they want some kind
Yeah,
of diversion, because people's attention span has reduced drastically.
yeah,
I was doing mandala art hardly 1 week back. It was so difficult. It was just sketching on a piece of paper with focus. It was very difficult for me to do because my attention span reduced. Our dopamine spike is so much right now. Every 10 seconds, we're skipping one reel to one more reel. So, having a hobby will give you an ultimate focus. When I'm playing cricket, when I am batting, my entire focus is on how is the ball going to come on my face. And if I'm not
yeah,
focused, it's going to hurt me. So it was the reason. It was always like very encouraging for me because my mom, dad, they let us do a lot of this stuff since childhood. Like I can play every possible sport. I'm not great at any sport, but I can play any sport. Like you leave me on a field, I'll be
yeah.
like, okay, the mediocre player that you don't mind having, just because you need to have that minimum players to play the game. So habit, as Vish was mentioning, habit is spelled with HABBIT. The entire concept of habit was turning your hobbies into a habit.
Okay.
So we want every course that you take is a 21-day course. So let's say someone was learning how to make beer at home. It was a 21-day course. Someone was learning how to play poker. Someone was learning journaling. Someone was learning baking. The most important factor was the demographics too.
Mm.
There was a 60-year-old woman who was learning content writing. There was a 10-year-old who was learning how to do crypto mining. I mean, we did not care about the
Wow.
legalities at that point of time because it was COVID, everything was gray area. So we just
Yeah.
let anyone can become a mentor. You can teach anything and everything unless if someone is looking to learn something from it. So I felt there will be
Wow, that's
someone who
really
accepts
interesting.
your madness.
No, couple of things that you mentioned really stood out for me. One was the ability to not want to be the best at what you're doing, being okay with being a mediocre player, right? And that I think is huge because a hobby is supposed to help you free you up and not really pressurize you into
Yeah.
becoming the best in that, right? That
Work
I
is
think is
career and
crucial.
work is for
Thanks for
it.
mentioning. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I've always been extremely impressed by the whole idea of habit, and again, demographics you mentioned, it's just so nice that you can bring people together like that. But I think, again, as much as we spoke about technology as a diversion, it's great that technology is bringing people together. It is the avenue through which now someone who
Yeah.
knows something is able to teach other people something. So that's really interesting.
Talk about the technology right now where someone is helping us teach. But if we go back when we were childhood, someone taught us how to skip, someone taught us how to play a certain game. Like I remember
Yeah.
someone like one of my friend teaching me how to play hide and seek. Someone was teaching me how to play basketball, or someone was teaching me how to paint for the matter of fact, or dance. We had people to people connection back then, and that was the basis of friendship, to be honest. Now the basis of
Mhm.
friendship has changed from what do you do, where do you stay, what I think so. Hobbies, as you have mentioned, right? Those were the primary friendship makers back then. I still have a entire friends gang just for cricket. I don't even know what. Recently, we were in a one cricket game. We were playing, and I understood that fellow was a filmmaker. He was a director. I didn't even know until we were batting together. After we had like a really good partnership, we were sitting down and then we talked, bro. What do you do? Until then, the question of what do you do didn't come. This is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, no? Like back then, you don't ask when you're a child. You don't ask what does your parent do? How rich are you? Like, do you have this? You don't. You just know if you are running nice, you're on my team. If you're not running, you're on. So, so that's why I feel hobbies are really good for making friends in a very organic way. I just want to add that point. Yes.
Well, that's a
Absolutely.
beautiful segue into Communite. So I think please talk about it. I know we've chatted so much about building Communite and why it's important, how it's hard to make friends, and how organically you can make friends through hobbies. Where did this idea come from? Was it sort of inspired by habit, or how did you arrive at this? How is it going now?
I mean, when we was like, I was in Hyderabad, uh, I realized that majority of my friends are just from my work or through, like, I used to work in cafes because I am little bit like a social person. So I wanted to, like, so I put myself out there. I worked in different nice cafes where I know people go. So I used to go and work as a barista. I used to go and like manage those cafes to have like conversations and so on. But after a point of time, again, I would just be their barista friend. I would just be their cafe friend. I was like, it's not like a
Hmm.
daily basis. So I thought, okay, I need to have like a more strong integral basis or foundation. So I thought, okay, what do I really like? I'm like, I like volleyball and I like cricket and I like dancing. So let's start with these clubs. Let's like bring people together. And we started with that, and I wanted to name it like a really cool thing. So we thought like maybe community but a different spelling. We thought it would be nice. And after I have incorporated it, his name is Robert, who is like my one of our first like he's part of the core team also, who is building this product. He told me like, Anna, it's not community, it's like come unite on a like-minded thing. It felt really cool. Like you're coming and uniting on a
Yeah.
like-minded thing that you reciprocate with those tribe. So we have like right now around 85 plus clubs. Like you have a club for anime, you have a club for manga, you have a club for 50 plus individuals also. You have a club for badminton, pickleball, squash, running, cycling. So there are like n number of clubs. We are right now we have like an active members of around 20,000 people across the platforms utilizing it, and we have started in Vizag, we have started in Chennai. I mean, at Chennai is there right now with around 400, 500 people. So it's nice.
Wow.
Like recently for the like, so we just wanted to like do like a Wayanad weekend for Wayanad, like a relief fund. We asked out people to like we asked all the artists to come and sell their work. Around 6, 7 artists showed up with all their artworks, and a couple of people showed up for the music jam and dance jam. We rose around 35 to 40 grand. So just like so instead of
That's
donation, you
amazing.
just come after the session. You pay how much ever you want. So you can
Hmm.
utilize this community to do anything, whatever you have in mind. It is nice to have someone resonating with the madness that you have. That's it.
I mean,
Wow.
I
I love
love
that
everything
line.
you do, Saathwik, but this is my favorite. I think this is just so beautiful. But if there's anything at all that I'm passionate about, and I want to, and I live in Hyderabad or Chennai or Vizag, the cities where we have it right now. Say I want to start something for winemaking or something like that. How, as an individual, can I start a club?
Okay. So we wanted to give it very simple, like, so all you gotta do is you just have to, like, let's say you wanted to start have like a winemaking club. Now, we have a simple form that you fill it and say that you want to start like a winemaking club if you wanted to work with Kamini.
Also, I don't know
Yeah.
if this is legal, guys, just an example,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah. So no, there is like we are like we have like a mixologist session coming up. So there's a mixologist who wants to go from the scratch and basic of how to make a cocktail. Like it's coming, but let's say even we can have like a wine appreciation society. Like
yeah.
imagine it's a
Yeah.
really cool thing, like a wine club where people just come together and talk about wine. We can definitely bring some wine connoisseurs and they just talk about what kind of wine. Like, obviously, I would want to know.
Hmm.
So you just fill up the form and we will see obviously with the network we have we will look for like any professional who can actually have like a first curated session. First sessions are always curated
Hmm.
because when you are like doing peer to peer, it's always a very mixed emotion. Some people will have strong biased opinions. That's when the
Yeah.
conversations start happening also. You will ask what wine can be better, how is wine better, or like, and
Yeah.
we will make it as organic as possible, and we'll try to club it with different events also.
Much just a platform. Yeah, yeah. It's a platform for me to like reach out to these 20,000 people. If I want to start something that is organic, that's hobby building, but also if you're just one of those 20,000 people, you have now like 85 to 100 different club options that you can be part of to go meet
Yeah.
interesting people who are, like minded, right? Um, yeah, so I think coming back to turning really like hobbies into habits, I've gone to like painting classes, pottery classes. I will do like one sip and paint session, be it Pilates, yoga. For me, the hardest thing has been to keep up with it, right? And I
Consistency.
personally always think maybe if I had like one or two people who would do the exact same thing with me, it would be easier for me to go to these classes. But
Yes, I'll agree with that. But because again, I have coming back to the point of attention span, no, it needs ultimate attention and focus because there is no monetary attachment to it. Same thing if I say that you paint every
Yeah.
day and I'll give you like $1,000 for it, I'm 110% sure you will find 15 minutes of your day to paint something. Because the it is
Yeah.
also the monetary attachment, and this is entirely a shift of mindset where people should start appreciating the dopamine that they get from their hobbies. Like, for example, there is a journaling group. Journaling has been very difficult for me. I've been thinking of writing a diary since 5 6 years. I always buy a diary for my New Year's, but I never end up writing after January 15th or 16th. It's the most difficult thing for me. There is a group
Yeah.
that is known for journaling, and some people share, some people don't. But what they do is they give like a prompt for the day. Anyone can give prompt for the day. Yesterday's prompt, I strongly remember yesterday's prompt. If not for money, what would your occupation be? And that put me in a beautiful chain of thoughts. I'm like, if money is not
Yeah.
involved, what would I want to become? I wanted to become a panda handler. I don't know why. I wanted to have someone who takes care of pandas. Like it is, I mean, that was the first thought that came to my mind when they told me. And I wanted to write. I wrote about it. I wrote like maybe it's because of the too many cute panda reels that I see, or I just love pandas. Let's say, for example, I want to ask you guys both one question, Asta and Vishrutha. Okay?
mm-hmm.
If not for a dog or cat, what's your favorite animal? It should have
Ooh,
Hmm.
already
tough
come. Like
question.
it should have already come. Like you're just trying to
Yeah,
battle your thoughts now. Just tell
no,
it out
no.
loud.
For me, I think the first thought is a fox.
Hmm.
Um, because every time, like I don't know, like ever since I was little, every time people would say like a fox is wicked. Or even in like, Dora, how they keep saying, asking Swiper to go away because he would come steal. I've always thought the fox has to be smart to be wicked. So I've always thought that is the smartest animal that there is. So I don't know. I've always had a weird sort of inclination towards foxes.
Asta, you?
Interesting. I'm between an elephant and a tiger
Okay.
because
Cool. Good.
elephants very cute, love how they live. Tigers, because I've been going like safari for these tiger safaris since I was very young, and it's always fascinated me you know, how mighty they are.
This is known as a soul animal, it seems, because if you take off the immediate comfort choices like dog and cats, you ask something, you get like the soul animal thing. And for me, it was panda. I don't like you don't have like a reasoning, but the prompt for journaling was write about it. One of the prompts was this, and you write about why you
Interesting.
think it is. I mean, you will try to break down more. For example, because we are on a podcast series, we will just think for 1 minute. But imagine you have a book and pen, and you have like 1 hour to spare, and you have to write why you
Yeah.
think fox or
Hmm.
elephant or panda. You'll try to appreciate those things, and those things are the small things kind of give you this dopamine. Example, people take like try cooking as a hobby. Like if you have observed it, if you're cooking something, you don't feel like eating it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely don't. I fully agree.
Yeah. So you want someone else to eat it and appreciate it. And if like even
Yeah,
if they say it's not good, no, you will not accept it. I'm like in your head, you're like, cool, I did it nice.
yeah.
They just
I'm
didn't like it.
offended.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I feel that that is the beauty of
Yeah.
hobbies
absolutely.
where regardless, you're not doing it for someone else's opinion, you're doing it for your own happiness. And if you need some motivation, you need to have someone who like-minded and like makes it happen. For example, probably both of you individually, you would have had the
Yeah,
idea of talking about our podcast in so long. But when both of you resonated with the same concept and you kickstarted it,
Yeah, and I really want
absolutely.
to, I wanted to bring up the podcast thing too, because honestly it's been not an easy thing to start, right?
Yeah,
As much as it's so easy to constantly, I mean, like every conversation we've had before, and I've seen that with a lot of friends, right? You have an interesting conversation with your friend, and it ends with, "Oh, we should start a podcast."
we should.
So, and that's how they started. To be very honest, it's for friendship's sake, uh, okay,
yeah,
for friendship's
nice.
sake. So, but I think it's been a very rewarding, gratifying experience every time I sit to edit something. I just find so much joy in like watching just the two of us chatting, laughing, it becoming a video. And honestly, I was just telling another friend a couple weeks ago that, you know what, I know there are some people that regularly watch the podcast and like literally write back to us and talk about like what thoughts resonated with them, what they disagree with. There are some people who
Yeah,
would just watch the reels on Instagram and would have something to say. And I do have close friends who would never watch it, and their reasoning to it is, you anyway talk to us, why do we have to go listen to the podcast? I'm like, I need to stop talking to y'all. But I know that for a fact I personally enjoy doing this, right? Like today, even if nobody listens to it, I think I still like it because one, the chatter itself, but also the effort that we put into like editing it. Of course, we're learning, we're still very much noobs when it comes to the technological part of it. But I mean, I'm just glad 10 years down the lane, we're going to have a bunch of videos of knowing what we were when we were in our mid 20s, chatting about everything that made us feel existential.
I agree. So like really
absolutely. I
cool.
think it's
Go ahead, Asta.
I think we also started this as just a way to keep in touch, right? Like you said, it becomes something you bond over. Not that Vish and I need more things to bond over, but it just made sure that we could do something together that, that was ours, and it would sort of create an additional bond between us as just friends. And of course, we want this to do really well. We want it to become a successful podcast and stuff, but all of that honestly is secondary for us more than anything else. Even if the stuff that we do helps a few people along the way, mission accomplished. But but again, having said that, we do want this to be successful. So for anyone listening, if you like it, please pass it along to other people. But having said that, right? A lot of times especially when we were kids, a lot of times we were, if you were good at art, you'd be told, oh, why don't you become a designer? Why don't you become an architect? If you were good at, say, like Sudoku and stuff, they'd be like, oh, you're very intelligent. You should do like science and do maths and become an engineer or something along those lines. So since early on, we've been taught that hobbies can be converted into careers. And I think, Satvik, you've done a bunch of that as well. So what do you think? Should hobbies be turned into career paths? How do you think they intersect your professional life and your hobbies?
So yeah, first of all, it's a beautiful
Hmm.
question because I feel it brought back me to the concept of ikigai, which says like you need to have like 3 to 4 passions that you like one you to make money, one to accept your acceptance, want to like just for your survival and so on. So when it comes down to commercialization of your hobbies, obviously you will have more accountability. For example, I like baking. I really, really love baking. And I commercialized it. I made it like a really cool, simple startup which supplies B2B desserts and brownies. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it grows to a point where you'll stop baking and you'll start running a bakery. You'll have employees doing it for you. Like it
Yeah.
has been really long that I baked. The same goes with Homely Fit also. I love cooking, but it has been really long. I absolutely hate running a restaurant. I don't like running a cloud kitchen. I hate like the bills, the inventory, the employees. Oh my, it's horrible. But I feel that if you're doing, in my opinion, or might say that if you're doing something like a hobby into a career, don't start something on its own because you'll end up not doing it. For example, you might be great at art, but if you start becoming a designer and you start like a designer label, then you will not have time to design your clothes. You'll have more time to see the branding, the marketing. From an artistic
Yeah.
to you'll turn to like a capitalistic person. I don't I mean, it's something, it's like a harsh truth you need to, it's like a like very difficult pill to swallow. So if
Yeah.
you like something, don't monetize it so much also. If I join as a baker somewhere, I would have been happy. I would have loved. I worked as a baker under a couple of bakers. It was really nice. I go at 9 o'clock. I bake it. I bake beautiful croissants or something. And by 6 I come off. And I had like a beautiful day. But Indian Desert Lab, it's irritating. We get orders at 4 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the night, 9 o'clock. Probably someone like wants some really good fudgy brownies at 11:30 in the night. And if they're not there, you just feel like you'll again think like, okay, why is the inventory not proper, like balanced? And from inventory it goes to why did the employee who was in that particular shift did not refill the brownie tray, which is not nice. So I would say that if someone is trying to make their hobby into a career, they should know, be aware of the consequences also, where they might find an adversity in it. So they
Yeah.
should have like a balance to it, in my opinion.
Also, they like you said, they probably aren't doing their hobby at all, right? They're doing everything that's surrounding their hobby, but not their hobby in itself.
I mean, you should be smart enough. Like, you should be smart enough the moment we are scaling up, or let's say you know that there's going to be a situation, you hire someone. Like
Yeah.
I hired one particular fellow who's very, very trustworthy to handle all the accounting and like client
Hmm.
management and so on. So I don't get to talk. You just tell me what to bake or what to cook.
So I guess it's
That
like
makes a lot of sense.
up to you to protect yourself, where you still get to do a little bit of your hobby at least and find a balance. Because I feel like there is, of course, happiness in being able to make money out of your hobby, right? I mean, instead of having to do a job that you don't like for the sake of money, if you're able to do something that you like every day and still be able to make money out of it, nothing like it. But more often than not, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It's you if it's unless, like he said, you're an individual artist trying to sell your art, you're still putting in time into selling it. So you cannot spend 100% of your time doing it and still want to make money out of it. But I do think,
Yeah.
like, this could be a hot take slash controversial opinion, I don't know, but I do think once you start doing anything for the sake of money, or when your hobby becomes a profession, I don't think it gives you the same happiness or dopamine that a hobby does. I feel like at that point you need to find a new hobby.
Yeah.
um which
I
I think
agree.
I strongly believe in, because honestly, I've always thought that, I love marketing, right? But it's my profession.
It's
Yes,
not
like
your hobby.
if I was in college and I was doing one fest like 1 year, I would enjoy it. But now I do it every day, so it's my job. So I do have to find another hobby. Like even with the podcast now, I feel like I can see it becoming more of a routine. There are so
Yeah.
many elements that we need to start thinking about. So at that point, I have to go back to my 20 minutes of painting every day to feel that happiness.
I mean,
Mm-hmm. For
like
sure.
talking it from a macro point of view, The moment you are involving a variable called as money, because people start giving it a value. Like
Yeah.
let's say you draw a painting which you absolutely love, and you think it has, like, for you it is infinite amount of value, like it's, you can't put a price tag on it. But someone comes and says this is worth, let's say, 10,000 rupees.
Mm-hmm.
Now you will feel there are two ways. Oh, you might be like, oh, this is only worth 10,000 rupees. Then you will start like, okay, what should I paint to get a better high value? So
Yeah.
that's when you are allowing a third variable coming into your
Yeah.
picture than what your personal happiness is.
Yeah.
I feel that is something we should. They say no, like don't meet your superheroes, or they say don't meet your heroes. The same
Yeah.
way, don't let your hobby turn into a profession is what I would. I think so. I'll strongly, even if it's controversial, I would say. No, it's high time I should shake his hands. No, don't make your hobby into a profession. Do it just for yourself. I mean, like, no, do because it. I mean, every fucking sports movie has the same ending. They'll be like, at the end of the finals, they'll be like, "Don't worry about the score. Go find your joy. Find that happy." Like, they say the same thing. No, they like, go find your
Yeah.
peace in it, and that's when all the protagonists win it also, because they're finding the joy in it. So I think so. We should. We should not miss the joy in it, as long as, like, I love
Yeah.
baking every day. Like, like I've been trying to make a cinnamon bun since what, 5 6 months. Every time I fail it, it's fine. I mean, I'm like, and I want that it's not like a fail, because in my head, other people who have ate it, it's like they love it. They like it's good, but in my head, I have like a certain thing. I want it crispy on the outside. I want it soggy on the inside. It should have that proper icing where when you're opening it, it should melt on the
Yeah.
sides. Like you see how I'm describing it also. Mentally, I have like a video, 1080 pixel video playing in my head when I'm describing this.
I can understand for sure. So on that note, Satvik, can you give us some tips on how you incorporate hobbies into your daily lives? I think Vish has already mentioned this, and I 100% agree. Consistency in even practicing it, even though I know how much it's going to make me feel good when I'm done with it, is just tough. Something or the other comes up, either it's work or I'm tired after a long day or I have some chores to do, something or the other comes up, and my hobbies tend to take a back seat. So, do you have any tips and tricks on how you make sure that you incorporate your hobbies in the busy schedule that you have?
So, two things. Number one is, how we fit our, like, hobbies into our daily routines. I would say that no one is ever too busy. You'll find that space for sure, unless it's like a very long hobby. Like, for example, I know baking takes like a good amount of time for me.
Yeah.
So what I do is I don't force myself. I just keep them handy. Like, I have everything ready for me to bake something. You
Hmm.
should know, because your body, your mind will find all the excuses for you to stop doing it and just open Netflix maybe and watch something. Let's say you like painting, you need to have your art book, supplies, everything in front of your eyes. You keep seeing it, maybe 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Eventually one day you will pick it up, you will do something. And second most important thing is, if possible, have like a association who reciprocate that hobby of yours. When you're seeing, for
Hmm.
example, we have like a really cool art club at Communite. People just share their paintings, whatever they're sketching every day, and it feels nice. One person will be just painting one Pokemon, and the other person will be painting one entire landscape, like, amazing painting. Both of them have the same joy. Both of them get the same like reactions also, like 20 30 people reacting as a love symbol to it. So I feel
Yeah.
that when people are reciprocating the hobby of yours, you'll also feel a little bit like, wait, I also want to do it. That positive reinforcement is also important. So these are the two tips that I would say
Yeah.
that you can start off with.
Yeah. Absolutely. That has been very, very helpful, Satvik. Uh, and I could clearly see from your expressions how happy and excited you were to be talking about this topic. So I think we got the best person on for the episode.
Yeah.
Uh, um, um,
I was just gonna say it's been such a happy chat. I knew Satvik would be the right person to talk about this simply because I think I've always seen him try out things personally. He would just like walk into my house and be like, "I'm gonna go cook something for you," and who would say no? And this came up suddenly, right? It's not like that's not how he was when I first met him. This cooking became like a hobby somewhere in the middle during college, and I've seen him pick up so many other things, wanting to try out new stuff. So I know personally he was
Yeah.
always inclined to do it, but also given the social butterfly that he is,
Yeah.
he's always been doing something around building communities, and I just love how he's able to sort of merge those things together and create different digital and physical spaces for people to come together to build their hobbies. Very, very proud of you, Sathwik, for everything that you're doing. And thanks for this chatter. I really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yes, yes. I didn't know it was almost 45 minutes until the phone, my battery showed like we have 5% charging. So I'm like, oh, okay, nice. But yes, guys, thank you for having me. It feels nice to talk about things that I love, and you guys are doing a fab job. Just keep doing it. Find the joy in it. Okay? Chill then. I'll take you
Thank
guys
you
Thank
so
leave
much.
you.
then. I'll
Yep.
see you guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.